New York City, 1998. The air hangs thick with summer heat. Limousines idle outside Fifth Avenue boutiques, their drivers swiping sweat from their brows. Uptown socialites pass their days behind double-locked brownstone doors, sipping iced tea and clutching pearls. In this world, wealth is armor and deception an art. And then she appeared, a woman in oversized glasses, dripping in costume jewelry that looked real enough. Her voice soft, low, rehearsed. Her charm, addictive. She had a son, a tall, clean-cut, young man who never said much, but always carried the bags. Always looked at her like she was queen of the world. She introduced herself as Mrs. Silverman, or sometimes Mrs. Jordan, or Madame Guerin. Her story changed, but her ambition didn't. Because what Sante Kimes wanted wasn't attention. It wasn't money. Not really. What she wanted was to be untouchable. Welcome to GBR Life Transmissions. I'm your host, Caitlin, and you're listening to GBR Life of Crimes, where we explore not just what happened in crimes committed by women, but why they happened and the psychology behind them. Today, we unravel the story of a woman who used lies like weapons, a woman who transformed manipulation into motherhood, and a woman who, along with her son, left behind a trail of stolen identities, scorched earth, and death. This is the story of Sante Kimes and how a con artist became a killer. Born in 1934 as Sante May, her early life is already wrapped in contradiction. Some reports say Oklahoma. Others say Los Angeles. Even her birthplace is a fog of half-truths. Her mother was a 14-year-old girl. Her father, gone before she took her first breath. Abandonment, poverty, instability. Psychologists often point to this triad as a recipe for identity fragmentation. For children who grow up with no solid foundation, pretending to be someone else isn't deception, it's survival. And Sante learned early how to be anyone. She stole, she lied, she ran away, and by her teens, she was boosting luxury items from department stores and hitchhiking across state lines, lying about her age and name as easy as breathing. She married young, but she divorced faster, changed cities, names, accents, and with each reinvention, she learned what worked. Confidence, elegance, or the illusion of it. Paperwork that looked real enough until it didn't. This wasn't just petty theft, it was identity curation. Sante was building the persona of a woman who belonged in penthouses, even if she had to kill to get the keys. In the 1960s, she met Kenneth Kimes Sr, a wealthy motel tycoon more than 20 years her senior, and they married quickly, and their union changed everything. Sante suddenly had access to everything she'd only pretended to have before. Private jets, real estate portfolios, bank accounts with zeros stacked like dominoes. But it didn't satisfy her. It never could. Because Sante didn't want his money. She wanted power. And power that depends on someone else isn't real. So she began quietly building her own empire of lies, one fake identity at a time, forging checks, inventing corporations, running international scams while still playing the doting housewife. And when Kenneth Sr. died in 1986, she inherited millions. But instead of calming the storm inside of her, it escalated. In 1975, Sante gave birth to her only child, Kenneth Kimes Jr. He was her shadow, her student, her soldier. By all outward appearances, He was polite, handsome, well-spoken. But under her influence, he became something else. In criminal psychology, there's a term for what happened to Kenny: coercive maternal enmeshment. It's when a mother makes her child her emotional extension. Blurred boundaries, no identity outside of her approval. Santee didn't just raise a son. She built a partner. By his teens, Kenny was helping her forge documents, stealing cars, lying to authorities. They ran scams together across state lines, from fraudulent credit cards to burning down homes for insurance. And when the stolen money dried up, they looked for new marks. Only this time, the stakes would be deadly. In the early 1990s, Santee and Kenny were arrested for enslaving undocumented maids in their California mansion. They beat the women, starved them, and when one escaped and reported them, authorities found passports locked away in safes and a hot iron punishment. Santee got 5 years, but she served less than 3 because she called it a misunderstanding. But the truth? This wasn't just fraud anymore. It was ownership. And it wouldn't stop there. March 1998, Los Angeles. David Carsden was a longtime acquaintance of Santee. He helped her with real estate paperwork, trusted her. Big mistake. When he discovered she had forged his signature on a $280,000 loan, he threatened to expose her. Days later, he was found in the trunk of his car, shot in the back of the head, execution style. The killer? Kenny. Santee had convinced him that Carsden was dangerous. She reportedly said, "He's gonna take your future. Do you want that?" That was all it took. Now, flush with fake identities and murder in their rear view, Santee and Kenny headed to New York City. There, they set their sights on Irene Silverman, a wealthy 82-year-old widow who owned a $7.7 million limestone townhouse in Manhattan. Santee and Kenny moved into one of Irene's rental units under the names Manny Guerin and Eva Guerrero. They began intercepting her mail, forging ownership documents. And then, July 5th, 1998, Irene Silverman was never seen again. They were caught 2 days later in a stolen Lincoln in Delaware, filled with 14 forged IDs, 7 handguns, rubber gloves and duct tape, a forged deed to Irene's home, Irene's personal documents, and a memo in Santee's handwriting that read, "Body acid or fireplace?" Irene's body was never found, but the evidence was overwhelming. What made Sante Kimes so dangerous wasn't the crimes. It was her ability to convince people, including her own son, that it wasn't wrong. So let's break it down. Clearly, she had narcissistic personality disorder. She believed that she was above others, deserving of more. And empathy was irrelevant. Morality, optional. But she also had manipulative attachment, because Kenny didn't just help her, he lived for her approval. He once said, "If my mother asked me to kill somebody, I probably would, and then I'd make her a sandwich." That isn't loyalty. It's psychological captivity. And then there's also the mutual reinforced psychopathy, because together, they were worse than they could have ever been alone. She planned the cons, he carried them out. She cleaned up the lies, he cleaned up the messes. One brain, 2 bodies, no conscience. And in 2000, mother and son stood trial in Manhattan. Prosecutors painted them as modern-day Bonnie and Clyde, if Bonnie had raised Clyde from birth and taught him how to kill. Kenny tried to take all of the blame, as I'm sure you thought he would. And Santee smiled, adjusted her pearls, and said, "I've never broken any law in my life." The jury didn't buy it, so they were sentenced. Santee to 120 years and Kenny to 125 years. California later added a life sentence for the Carsden murders, but Santee died in prison in 2014. Kenny, he's still incarcerated. And to this day, he calls her my best friend. beneath the pearls and the penthouses, something twisted and monstrous lurked. Because this wasn't a woman scamming banks or skipping rent. This was a woman who turned deception into a bloodline. And her son, he didn't inherit her eyes. He inherited her evil. This has been GBR Life of Crimes, part of GBR Life Transmissions. And I'm Caitlin, reminding you that understanding the darkness helps us appreciate the light. Join me next time as we uncover another case that challenges everything we thought we knew about the criminal mind.